Welcome to Girlfriend's Bible Study, a live Bible study with Connie and friends. Each week, Connie and her girlfriends engage in a lively conversation as they read and study scripture. So grab a pen, your journal, and your best friend and enjoy this enlightening Bible study.
This is an important message that I want to share. It's about good and bad influences. And I know that we have heard birds of a feather and a person by the people they hang around with. And there's no question that that is true. If you look back on biblical times, and even now, there are still countries where wives are selected for the husbands, or husbands are selected for the wives based on furthering a family line. So some of what we read in the Bible deals with, they are the women that they've married were given to them. So sometimes the women don't necessarily have a choice with whom they're married, to whom they're married, but often they do. And in our time, certainly in our country, in America, of course, for the most part, we get to choose. So there are still countries out there, though, where they don't get to choose. And they have to deal with whoever they end up with based on, furthering the family line, or there's a financial thing in place that they have to maintain. So there are things like that. But even in that situation, this is what we're talking about, good and bad influences. Even in that situation where you may find yourself married to somebody who is making bad decisions, you still have a choice. And so the first one we're going to talk about is Abigail and Nabal. And Abigail was a good woman, a wise woman who was married to Nabal, who was described as a fool. And yet, when it came to a situation where he could have died, the whole family could have died, all the men in the town could have died, Abigail intervened. She was a good influence. And we're going to read about that tonight. Then we're going to juxtapose it, let's say, with the Jezebel story. And Ahab was already not a good husband. I mean, not a good man. He, in general, wasn't a great man. Let me let my sister in 1 second. Um, so he already wasn't a great man. Let's see. Um, there you go. You probably saw my sister for a moment. She popped in, and you'll see her again at the end. But Jezebel married Ahab, who in general wasn't great already, and you'll hear about that, but she made him worse. So you've got somebody like Abigail who was trying to make her husband better or do better things, even though her husband is making poor decisions. And then you've got somebody like Jezebel who is helping her husband to make poor decisions. So, this is why it's so important, the good and bad influences, to decide what kind of person, wife, spouse, husband, do you want to be? Do you want to be the one who helps your spouse make better decisions and helps save the family by the things that you do, even when it seems like it's putting you at odds with him? But when he realizes, I'm doing this, for us, or when she realizes, I'm doing this for us in a positive way, good things can happen. So often we feel that, oh, I'm married to this person and they're making bad decisions and I'm just stuck. I'm just stuck. I can't fix it. I can't help them make better decisions. I'm just stuck. And like I said, in some countries, that's true. You hand it off to marry somebody and you get what you get and you don't have a fit. That's true. And even in that situation, that's why I'm thinking it doesn't say how Abigail and Nabal came to be married, but they were not equally yoked. Whereas in our country, we at least get to choose somebody that we might be more equally yoked with. So I'm just going to read first from 1 Samuel 25. We're going to read about the good wife, Abigail. So 1 Samuel 25, I'm reading starting at verse 2. It says, a certain man in Maon who had property there at Carmel was very wealthy. He had 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep, which he was shearing in Carmel. His name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. She was an intelligent and beautiful woman, but her husband, a Calebite, was surly and mean in his dealings. While David was in the desert, he heard that Nabal was shearing sheep. So he sent 10 young men and said to them, go up to Nabal at Carmel and greet him in my name. Say to him, long life to you, good health to you and your household. and good health to all that is yours. Now I hear that it is sheep shearing time. When your shepherds were with us, we did not mistreat them, and the whole time they were at Carmel, nothing of theirs was missing. Ask your own servants, and they will tell you. Therefore, be favorable toward my young men, since we come at a festive time. Please give your servants and your son David whatever you can find for them." When David's men arrived, they gave Nabal this message in David's name. Then they waited. Nabal answered David's servants, "Who is this David? Who is this son of Jesse? Many servants are breaking away from their masters these days. Why should I take my bread and water and the meat I have slaughtered from my shearers and give it to men coming from who knows where?" David's men turned around and went back. When they arrived, they reported every word. David said to his men, "Strap up, buddies." He said, "Put on your swords." So they put on their swords, and David put on his. About 400 men went up with David, while 200 stayed with the supplies. They're like, "We going deep. Bring forth 400. We going in. We going to take care of this right now." David is a warrior, y'all. Good grief. One of the servants told Nabal's wife, Abigail, "David sent messengers from the desert to give our master his greetings, but he hurled insults at them. Yet these men were very good to us. They did not mistreat us, and the whole time we were out in the fields near them, nothing was missing. Night and day they were a wall around us. All the time we were herding our sheep near them. Now think it over and see what you can do, because disaster is hanging over our master and his whole household. He is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him." Abigail lost no time. She took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine. I don't know how much a skin is, but she took 2 of them. 5 dressed sheep, 5 seahs, seah, seahs of roasted grain, 100 cakes of raisins, and 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded them on donkeys. She got her a feast ready. Then she told her servants, "Go on ahead, I'll follow you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal. As she came riding her donkey into a mountain ravine, there were David and his men descending toward her, and she met them. David had just said, "It's been useless. All my watching over this fellow's property in the desert said that nothing of his was missing. He has paid me back evil for good. May God deal with David, be it ever so severely, if by morning I leave alive one male of all who belong to him." When you start talking in third person, may God deal with Connie so severely if I don't. He referred to himself in third person, so he meant business. He meant business. When Abigail saw David, she quickly got off her donkey and bowed down before David with her face to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, "My lord, let the blame be on me alone." Look at that character. Let the blame be on me alone. Like she took it all on herself. It's my bad. "Please let your servant speak to you. Hear what your servant has to say. May my lord pay no attention to that wicked man Nabal. He's just like his name. His name is Fool, and folly goes with him. He's foolish. I know he's my husband, but his name is Fool, and folly goes with him. But as for me, your servant, I did not see the men your master sent, because if I had seen them..." So, now since the Lord has kept you, my master, from bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hands, as surely as the Lord lives and as you live, may your enemies and all who intend harm my master be like Nabal. And let this gift, which your servant has brought to my master, be given to the men who follow you. Please forgive your servant's offense, for the Lord will certainly make a lasting dynasty for my master, because he fights the Lord's battle." She's blowing smoke. She's just trying to, "I know you were a Lord's man. You were such a good guy. You don't want this blood on your hands. You're such a good, and God is going to take care of you." That's what she's saying. "Even though someone is pursuing you to take your life." She knows whole history. She knew Saul was after him. "The life of my master will be bound securely in the bundle of the living by the Lord your God. But the lives of your enemies he will hurl away as from the pocket of a sling." She mentioned the sling. Remember he did the thing with Goliath? She had her buzzwords ready. When the Lord has done for my master every good thing he promised concerning him and has appointed him leader over Israel, my master will not have on his conscience the staggering burden of needless bloodshed or of having avenged himself. And when the Lord has brought my master success, remember your servant. David said to Abigail, Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, who has sent you today to meet me. May you be blessed for your good judgment and for keeping me from bloodshed this day and from avenging myself with my own hands. Otherwise, as surely as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, who has kept me from harming you, if you had not come quickly to meet me, not one male belonging to Nabal would have been left alive by daybreak. Then David accepted from her hand what she had brought him and said, Go home in peace. I have heard your words and granted your request. When Abigail went to Nabal, he was in the house holding a banquet like that of a king. He was in high spirits and very drunk. So she told him nothing until daybreak. She was like, I can't even talk to this drunk man. Then in the morning, when Nabal was sober, his wife told him all these things. So she went right to him. She didn't keep it from him. She was like, I just saved your hide. Let me tell you what I did. Otherwise, you would have died. So she told him all these things, and his heart failed him, and he became like a stone. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Praise be to the Lord, who has upheld my cause against Nabal for treating me with contempt. He has kept his servant from doing wrong and has brought Nabal's wrongdoing down on his own head. Then David sent word to Abigail, asking her to become his wife. His servants went to Carmel and said to Abigail, David has sent us to you to take you to become his wife. She bowed down with her face to the ground and said, Here is your maidservant, ready to serve you and wash the feet of my master's servants. Abigail quickly got on a donkey and, attended by her 5 maids, where are my maids, y'all, went with David's messengers and became his wife. I know, Jean, we've been looking. I need some maidservants, some handmaidens. Where are they? I don't have any. Anyway, so that's the Abigail portion. That's the Abigail portion. She stepped in. She did what was necessary to save her husband, save her husband's people. But she went and told him, listen, this is what I did. You're going to be mad, you can be mad, but I just saved your life. So she went and told him, I know you didn't want me to do that. You had a whole other plan. Your people and you were about to die. I stepped in. And his own heart failed him. Now, take a look in contrast at Miss Jezebel. We're going to start in 1 Kings 16 when he first gets married to her. So 1 Kings 16, verse 29. In the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, Ahab, son of Omri, became king of Israel. And he reigned in Samaria over Israel 22 years. Ahab, son of Omri, did more evil in the eyes of the Lord than any of those before him. He was not a good man. They were somewhat equally yoked, him and Jezebel. But she made him even worse. He not only considered it trivial to commit the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, but he also, they put this in the same category as committing sin. He also married Jezebel, daughter of Baal, king of the Sidonians, and began to serve Baal and worship him. He set up an altar for Baal in the temple of Baal that he built in Samaria. So, and then it says, Ahab also made an Asherah pole and did more to provoke the Lord, the God of Israel, to anger than did all the kings of Israel before him. So Ahab was bad news. There's no question. And just like Nabal was bad news, it said his name was fool and folly went wherever he went. Ahab was bad news. But the wife he married was not an Abigail. He married a Jezebel. A Jezebel versus an Abigail. So look at 1 Kings 19, just verses 1 and 2. So you guys remember one of my favorite stories is when there's a battle between Baal and God, and whoever can create fire and lick up all of that. There's that whole battle that Elijah's using all the sarcasm. Maybe your God is sleeping. Maybe he's traveling. He did all of that. All of that had happened, and then our God showed up and showed out, licked up everything, just, caught everything on fire. And after that, um, um, there were the deaths of the people who were serving Baal had happened. So Jezebel is livid now at Elijah, because keep in mind, it says she was the daughter of the king Baal. So they're worshiping basically her father. And now he's been shown to be a fraud, basically. So in chapter 19, verses 1 and 2, it says, Now Ahab told Jezebel everything Elijah had done and how he killed all the prophets with the sword. So Jezebel sent a message to Elijah to say, May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them. And I just find it so interesting. First of all, Ahab told his wife, like, let me tell you what he did. And it's like, interesting. And then she issued the message to Elijah. Not the king. She's queen. Not the king. She did it, which is interesting. Now, God preserved Elijah, so we're not even going to go in that part of the story. We're just talking about Jezebel right now. So now go to 1 Kings 21. And this sets up what becomes the downfall for both Ahab and Jezebel. It's about Naboth and his vineyard in 1 Kings 21. It says, sometime later, there was an incident. My sister and I was talking about an incident. There was an incident involving a vineyard belonging to Naboth the Jezreelite. The vineyard was in Jezreel, close to the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. Ahab said to Naboth, Let me have your vineyard to use for a vegetable garden, since it is close to my palace. In exchange, I will give you a better vineyard, or if you prefer, I will pay you whatever it is worth. But Naboth replied, The Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my fathers. So Ahab went home, sullen and angry, because Naboth the Jezreelite had said, I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers. He lay on his bed sulking and refused to eat. His wife Jezebel came in and asked him, Why are you so sullen? Why won't you eat? He answered her, Because I said to Naboth the Jezreelite, Sell me your vineyard, or if you prefer, I will give you another vineyard in its place. But he said, I will not give you my vineyard. Jezebel, his wife, said, Is this how you act as a king over Israel? Get up and eat. Cheer up. I'll get you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. Want to know who's running things up in there? Can you tell who's running things up in there? Running her man? So she wrote letters in Ahab's name, placed his seal on them, and sent them to the elders and nobles who lived in Naboth's city with him. In those letters, she wrote, Proclaim a day of fasting, and seat Naboth in a prominent place among the people. But seat 2 scoundrels opposite him, and have them testify that he has cursed both God and the king. Then take him out and stone him to death. She just wrote the letter as though she was Ahab. Just, here's what I want you to do. And I love that they put scoundrels in here, because, my baby, a song called Scoundrel. So, seat some scoundrels next to him, false witness, all of the things. So sure enough, the elders and nobles who lived in Naboth's city did as Jezebel directed in the letter she had written to them. They proclaimed a fast, and seated Naboth in a prominent place among the people. Then 2 scoundrels, I don't know where they found them. We're looking for scoundrels. Anybody? Scoundrels? We just need 2 of you. Just over here, please. They got 2 scoundrels, and they seated them opposite him and brought charges against Naboth before the people, saying, Naboth has cursed both God and the king. So they took him outside the city and stoned him to death. Then they sent word to Jezebel. Interesting, because she wrote him under Ahab's name, right? They knew who did it. They knew who boss was. They sent word to Jezebel, Naboth has been stoned and is dead. As soon as Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned to death, she said to Ahab, Get up and take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite that he refused to sell you. He is no longer alive, but dead. When Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, he got up and went down to take possession of Naboth's vineyard. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite. Go down to meet Ahab, king of Israel, who rules in Samaria. He is now in Naboth's vineyard, where he has gone to take possession of it. Say to him, this is what the Lord says. Have you not murdered a man and seized his property? Then say to him, this is what the Lord says. In the place where dogs licked up Naboth's blood, dogs will lick up your blood. Yes, yours. Ahab said to Elijah, so you have found me, my enemy. I have found you, he answered, because you have sold yourself to do evil in the eyes of the Lord. I am going to bring disaster on you. I will consume your descendants and cut off from Ahab every last male in Israel, slave or free. I will make your house like that of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, and that of Baasha, son of Ahijah, because you have provoked me to anger and have caused Israel to sin. And also concerning Jezebel, the Lord says, dogs will devour Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. Dogs will eat those belonging to Ahab who die in the city, and the birds of the air will feed on those who die in the country. There was never a man like Ahab who sold himself to do evil in the eyes of the Lord, urged on by Jezebel, his wife. He behaved in the vilest manner by going after idols, like the Amorites the Lord drove out before Israel. When Ahab heard these words, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and fasted. He lay in sackcloth and went around meekly. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite. Have you noticed how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he has humbled himself, I will not bring this disaster in his day, but I will bring it on his house in the days of his son. Phew. So then other stuff goes on. And then ultimately we get to 2 Kings. We're out of 1 Kings. We go to 2 Kings 9. There's a whole bunch going on, but basically, and I mean this whole portion is really good. I was reading just this chapter today. I read it all, but this chapter, and I could see the film playing in my head. I could see it. So I'm going to read part of it. And I'm not going to read the full chapter, but I am going to read up until Jezebel dies. Because she dies. Is that the whole chapter? Almost. It may be. The prophet Elisha, because now Elijah's gone, and Elisha is here, S-H-A, summoned a man from the company of the prophets and said to him, tuck your cloak into your belt. Take this flask of oil with you and go to Ramoth Gilead. When you get there, look for Jehu, son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi. Go to him, get him away from his companions, and take him into an inner room. Then take the flask and pour the oil on his head and declare, this is what the Lord says. I anoint you king over Israel. Then open the door and run. Don't delay. Just that alone. I'm like, dang. Then open the door, like, I anoint you king over. Gone. So the young man, the prophet, went to Ramoth Gilead. When he arrived, he found the army officers sitting together. I have a message for you, commander, he said. For which of us? Asked Jehu. They must all have been commanders, right? For you, commander, he replied. Jehu got up, went into the house. Then the prophet poured the oil on Jehu's head and declared, this is what the Lord, and he must have told him more, because we get to hear more about what he said. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I anoint you king over the Lord's people Israel. You are to destroy the house of Ahab, your master, and I will avenge the blood of my servants, the prophets, and the blood of all the Lord's servants shed by Jezebel. The whole house of Ahab will perish. I will cut off from Ahab every last male in Israel, slave or free. I will make the house of Ahab like the house of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha, son of Ahijah. He said that before, if you remember. So this is just confirmation. He said the same thing. As for Jezebel, dogs will devour her on the plot of ground at Jezreel, and no one will bury her. Then he opened the door and ran. He was out. When Jehu went out to his fellow officers, one of them asked, is everything all right? Why did this madman come to you? Because it must have been looking crazy in his eyes, knowing he was about to run. You know the man and the sort of things he says, Jehu replied. That's not true, they said. Tell us. Jehu said, here is what he told me. This is what the Lord says. I anoint you king over Israel. They hurried and took their cloaks and spread them under him on the bare steps. Then they blew the trumpet and shouted, Jehu is king! So Jehu, son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, conspired against Joram. Now Joram and all Israel had been defending Ramoth Gilead against Hazael, king of Aram. But King Joram had returned to Jezreel to recover from the wounds the Arameans had inflicted on him in the battle with Hazael, king of Aram. Jehu said, if this is the way you feel, don't let anyone slip out of the city to go and tell the news in Jezreel. So he's talking to his people. This is how you feel. You give me all the honor. Don't let anybody slip out and go tell them. Then he got into his chariot and rode to Jezreel, because Joram was resting there, and Ahaziah, king of Judah, had gone down to see him. When the lookout standing on the tower in Jezreel saw Jehu's troops approaching, he called out, I see some troops coming. Get a horseman, Joram ordered. Send him to meet him and ask him, do you come in peace? The horseman rode off to meet Jehu and said, this is what the king says. Do you come in peace? What do you have to do with peace? Replied Jehu. Fall in behind me. The lookout reported, the messenger has reached them, but he isn't coming back. So the king sent out a second horseman. When he came to them, he said, this is what the king says. Do you come in peace? Jehu replied, what do you have to do with peace? Fall in behind me. The lookout reported, he has reached him, but he isn't coming back either. The driving is like that of Jehu, son of Nimshi. He drives like a madman. That's interesting. Even back then, got a chariot and driving like a madman. So you're driving like a madman. Hitch up my chariot, Joram ordered. And when it was hitched up, Joram, king of Israel, and Ahaziah, king of Judah, rode out. So both the kings ride out, each in his own chariot, to meet Jehu. They met him at the plot of land that had belonged to Nabal the Jezreelite. When Joram saw Jehu, he asked, have you come in peace, Jehu? How can there be peace, Jehu replied, as long as all the idolatry and witchcraft of your mother Jezebel abound? Joram turned about and fled, calling out to Ahaziah, treachery, Ahaziah! Then Jehu drew his bow and shot Joram between the shoulders. The arrow pierced his heart, and he slumped down in his chariot. Jehu said to Bidkar, his chariot officer, pick him up and throw him on the field that belonged to Naboth the Jezreelite. Remember how you and I were riding together in chariots behind Ahab, his father, when the Lord made this prophecy about him? Yesterday I saw the blood of Naboth and the blood of his sons, declares the Lord, and I will surely make you pay for it on this plot of ground, declares the Lord. Now then, pick him up and throw him on that plot in accordance with the word of the Lord. When Ahaziah, king of Judah, saw what had happened, he fled up the road to Beth-Hagan. Jehu chased him, shouting, kill him too! They wounded him in his chariot on the way up to Gur near Ibleam, but he escaped to Megiddo and died there. His servants took him by chariot to Jerusalem and buried him with his fathers in his tomb in the city of David. In the 11th year of Joram, son of Ahab, Ahaziah had become king of Judah. Then, in verse 30, Jehu went to Jezreel. When Jezebel heard about it, she painted her eyes, arranged her hair. She gonna try seduction. And she looked out a window. As Jehu entered the gate, she asked, have you come in peace, Zimri, you murderer of your master? He looked up at the window and called, who is on my side? Who? 2 or 3 eunuchs looked down at him like, I am, dude. You know, that's cold. They're standing up there with her. Hey, who up there's on my side? We are. Throw her down, Jehu said. So they threw her down, and some of her blood splattered the wall and the horses as they trampled her underfoot. Jehu went in and ate and drank. Take care of that cursed woman, he said. Bury her, for she was a king's daughter. But when they went out to bury her, they found nothing except her skull, her feet, and her hands. They went back and told Jehu, who said, This is the word of the Lord that he spoke through his servant Elijah the Tishbite. On the plot of ground at Jezreel, dogs will devour Jezebel's flesh. Jezebel's body will be like refuse on the ground in the plot at Jezreel, so that no one will be able to say, "This is Jezebel." Phew! That's like a whole movie. That's a whole movie right there. So, um, Gina, how familiar were you with the Jezebel story? And I know you are familiar with David, Abigail, and Nabal because I've talked about it before, but how familiar were you with the details of the Jezebel story?
It's been a long time. I do remember Jezebel being thrown out of a window and being eaten by dogs. It's funny to me because women who are so used to um, gaining through allure, she had grown sons, right? Like, it's like, girlfriend, you don't have it like that.
Exactly.
You might have had it like that at one
Right.
point.
You 80 years old right now. This one was king. He was a whole grown man. Yeah.
It's
Till they
something
paint
for
their eyes and fluff their hair like they got it going on.
right. Like somebody wants that anyway. Um, this is anywho. Yeah, she was something. The contrast between Jezebel and Abigail is very interesting. Abigail was like, I know he's a fool.
Yep.
Let me try to protect my people from him, from you, because of him. And,
Right. Yeah.
and ultimately became the wife of the king.
Exactly. Exactly. Versus Jezebel, who was wife of a king, but she was
Daughter of a
not
king.
daughter of a king and wife of a king, because her king
Yeah.
Ahab was a king,
Yeah.
and still she was doing and didn't care.
Mm-mm.
It's evil.
No, leaders who just, kill them.
Kill
Kill
him. You want the
them.
land? Kill him.
Right?
Using
Why
false
you
witnessing.
why you sitting around crying? And like you said, scoundrels. Once you wave a little bit of this, you can find a scoundrel anywhere.
You can find a
Mhm.
scoundrel anywhere. That's a
Mhm.
shame. That is just a shame. Just
Mhm.
put him in this position, get two false witnesses, two scoundrels to say some negative, wrong stuff, and then stone him because of it. And that just, and
Yeah, and
you and I've talked often about, the people that you choose, the wife you choose, the husband you choose. Um, they should make you a better person, not a worse one, and they should bring out the good in you, not the bad. And people don't necessarily think about that. Certainly, once they're married, it's almost too late to think about. But when you find that the person that you're dating or engaged to or whatever is bringing out the very worst in you, not the best in you, not making you smarter, stronger, kinder, more, filled with more integrity, but instead it's just the opposite. It's I would, and you need to, and they get all that stank attitude on them and got you convinced that this is the way to handle it. Just, post this ugly thing on social media, or you need to tell them that, ain't nobody, da, 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 or their mama, blah, blah, blah. People who choose poorly, you look at how they came to ruin. Their bodies were eaten by both of them. Everybody's body's eaten by dogs. Just, it's just, we don't think about that influence. By the time we think about the influence, we're usually already in love.
yeah, yeah. And
And
I don't think most people are introspective enough to kind of weigh the things that they like about themselves and the things that they kind of wish they could change.
mm,
I think, especially people who are convinced, or, well, who lack introspection, tend to be convinced that they're right and they're fine. And they don't look at it closely enough to say, oh, I could be kinder, or I could be more patient, or I could be more generous. It, if you're
that's
not
true.
introspective, fine. I'm fine. And the person who makes you believe you're fine, just as you are, that's the one you pick. Yeah.
Ugh,
You end
yeah,
up
no,
picking
thank you.
somebody who magnifies your ugly.
Right.
So,
There was a woman, and she had been kind of a spiritual mentor to me. And I remember one of the times that let me know that something was wrong. I can't remember what had happened, but I was so salty, and I was uncharacteristically, what I tell you what, I'm not gonna. I was so salty, and she was like, "Oh, I like it when you go deep in your voice like that when you're angry. I like that side of you." That was like a wake up call to me, like, "Uh-oh, I don't know who you are. I thought you were a spiritual mentor. Now that you're saying you like my, you know,
your
down in
dark
my
side.
throat, yeah,
Mhm.
kind of anger and unkindness, now I got to wonder about your whole spiritual walk." Because she would say it all the time, "I want to hear you talk like that again." That was a red flag. That was a blinking, on fire red flag for me. And whenever, and that's not, she's not been the only one that I had say that to me. There's somebody else as well, where a friend, just a regular friend, not a spiritual mentor, but a regular friend. I got salty about something. I was like, "You better know what to do." And she was like, "Oh my goodness, I love it." That's a whole different voice. I love when you talk like that. And again, red flag, just like, this is not, I am not presenting my best self. And you're saying that's the part of you that, the part of me that you like most.
You're supposed to be talking me down and building me up. And instead, you're taking me down further.
Yep.
Mhm.
And the people I'm closest to will snatch me up in that in a minute. Like, "Connie, hey, take a moment, calm down. You don't mean that." Or, "Let's let that simmer, let it marinate. I need you to come. Do not send that
Don't
email."
click send. Don't hit
Exactly.
send.
Yes. Do not click send. Yep.
You didn't hit send, did you? Okay, as long
Right.
as you okay, no, okay.
I know. I know. In fact, I'm trying to think who I was talking to recently, and they told me they wrote something, and I said that exact thing. I was like, "Did you hit send?" "No, I just got it. I didn't hit send." Whew, thank you,
Oof.
Lord. Yeah. So yeah, the people, the good
Still
influences
hope.
are the ones who are going to encourage you not to do that. Give it a moment's thought. This isn't how you want to present yourself. It's just not.
And they will encourage you to stand up for
Which
yourself,
is
but they'll
different.
encourage you to do it in a way that is honorable and
Mhm.
honors who your best self, not
Exactly.
not the in the gutter self, not the
Right. Yeah.
taking off your earring self, not
Right.
that self.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So anyway, choose wisely, my friends. Get yourself an Abigail. Have a noble wife, a noble husband, noble friends, honorable, like Gina said. Don't be yoked, Ahab and Jezebel. That's what you don't need. That person who encourages you to, eggs you on to be your very worst self. They actually don't even care about you. I mean, honestly, like that. That's not showing a caring um, about who you actually are and what your ultimate end is. When they can just egg you on to be your ugliest self, to me, that's not even caring. That's not loving. I will say
I
this:
think it's just broken. It's just a broken
it is
kind of.
broken. It is
Mhm.
broken. But yes, and it could just be broken and not necessarily not loving, but often broken is so self-focused that it's not loving toward you. So the loves of my life, none of them cared about my relationship with God. They never, I would look out for their relationship with God. Like, I just don't want you to sin against God, or for certainly after I became saved. The first one I was engaged to, I didn't even know he was a Christian the entire time we were engaged. His father was a minister. He never said word one. He never said, "By the way, are you saved? Are you Christian? Can I lead you to the prayer of salvation?" Nothing. I didn't know until after we'd even broken up that he was a believer. And then it made me think after the fact, like, wait, you were a believer and you were engaged to me and you never said, are you saved? Can I help you? Can I pray for you? That it was deep. That is deep. And thinking about that, whether it's from brokenness or selfishness or lack of love or whatever it is, to have somebody who doesn't necessarily put your best interest at heart, who is really in many ways, and I was just talking about this to a girlfriend, they're attracted to their reflection of themselves in your eyes and not you at all. Your best interest is not what's most appealing to them or interesting to them. What's appealing to them is their reflection of themselves in your eyes. So no, it doesn't occur to them to say, where's your soul going? I don't really care. I look good though in her eyes. Look at me looking good. Puff up my chest because I look so good in her. Those aren't good influences. When you recognize that, they're not the one who looks out for you. Yeah. Mm-mm. No. And like Gina said, whether it's broken or selfish or whatever it is, make a different choice, y'all. Just make a different choice. Make a different choice. Because I'd rather help somebody be better than be either stand idly by and watch them be evil, or encourage them to be evil. I'd rather be the one that helps somebody be better. Or if I can't, I walk away so that I'm not dragged down with them either. But my first choice is going to be, how can I help? How can I help them bring out the best in them? The best characteristics, their strengths, the things that make them honorable. How can I help do that? Anyway, yeah, that Jezebel story. Ooh, child, she was a hot mess. She was messy. Before we go, I just want to say on camera and publicly, my sister looks so pretty.
Sisters. Sisters.
Look how pretty she looks. Anyway, all right. Thanks, you guys. I'm going to sign up with YouTube now.